we talk about flying creatures for a minute? More specifically, flying players. Like, PCs that can fly sound really broken, and a lot of DMs won't let you play them. But I don't see why you shouldn't. If a flying character breaks your campaign, you might need to rethink how your campaign is planned out. If a flying creature is viable in your world, then most likely the world is already built to deal with them, or at least built around them existing. And trust me, if dragons exist, people aren't scared of little birdmen. Bars and locks on windows, town guards armed with arrows and nets, those little tiny pokey strips that they put on the tops of buildings so pigeons can't land on them. Not to mention Geiss arms? Guy's arms? They're essentially pole arms with hooks. Reach and trip with a prepared action. There's a reason chickens haven't taken over the world. If you are tripped while in the air, you immediately fall 150 feet per round until you make that save or hit the ground. Really what flying is doing is negating pits and heights, and both of these things can be overcome with things like Misty Step, or characters with a jump spell, climbing pythons, or just a really good athletics check. Flight is simplifying all of these issues, so if you don't want someone getting up into a high window, don't include it, or have there be bars on the windows requiring time and noise to dismantle, or maybe a locked shutter giving your rogue something else to roll on. Aside from the speed aspect of it, there's really not a lot of difference between what someone with flight and a rogue with a grappling hook can get into. I'm just saying, ropes are OP. Just be okay with that. But dealing with flyers in combat isn't so bad as long as you follow these rules. Flying straight up requires 1.5 movement, carrying someone requires double movement, and attempting to hover without the hover skill requires a fly or athletics check of a DC 15, or you immediately fall 10 feet, and hovering does require a move action. Okay, now hold on a minute. Hovering and flying are not the same thing. Unless you are a banshee or like a beholder, you're flying. And flying in place, this is not an easy thing to do. And remember, any falling creature should always get a save to see if they prevent themselves from falling. And if you're the one dropping them from a super high height, let's hope they don't grab your wing and pull you down with them. Grappling in 5e is really wishy-washy, which is why it leads to a lot of players being like, I'm gonna grab them, fly straight up in the air, and then drop them. Let's just break that down. There's a lot of things that should happen within that one action. I grab them. That's a grapple check. I move. And a move action, unless you're starting right next to him to begin with, which is a little weird of a place to be for someone who's trying to fly around. On their turn, they get to try to stab you, or take control of the grapple. Turn 2. Following the previous rules, you are now carrying somebody and flying straight up, which has severely limited your movement, but you can dash, so why not? You get up pretty high. And at this point, free action, you let them go. But because they are now falling, they get a dexterity save to see if they can hold on, just like any player would hanging onto the back of a dragon. And my argument here is that they don't get a free grapple, they are just trying to hold on. But having someone hang onto you like that, of your size or lower, should definitely keep you in the difficult flight option. So while you can't do this maneuver, it's just not as safe and easy as people might think. I would still allow it in my games, but it usually takes 2 turns and requires at least 2 rolls, just like suplexing someone or booting somebody off a cliff. Insta-kills like this can be really fun, but they should be rewarding and they should take some effort and luck. If you have a bow or a firearm and you're flying around shooting people, that's really no different than just being high up on a cliff or hiding behind cover. It all makes sense as long as the people you're fighting also have the potential to shoot back, or at least use ranged spells, and that's something the DM has to plan. Beyond that, the other issue that players and DMs run into is how to keep track of a flying character. Some people buy plastic stands. I like using a dice box just to denote that they are flying. The easiest thing I find to do is just stack coins or poker chips to denote 5 or 10 feet increments of a flight. That way all the players are about the same elevations and you can see where they're at, and then you're just kind of forced to do math if people really want to get finicky about, I'm going to fly exactly 60 feet up above them so they can't shoot me with their whatever. At that point, you're just out of combat. You've just run away from combat. That's boring. Matt Colville has a pretty good video out talking about the non-Euclidean nature of D&D, which is essentially, if you're within range in the longest distance of the X or Y, just completely ignore the Z distance. And just leave it at that. Don't do the math. I'll leave a link down to that video down below. Rugby, has Matt Colville gotten back to us about why the spear and the trident are 2 different martial weapon types? No? Write him again. Okay, thank you. So if your only intent on playing a flying creature is to cheese the game, just don't do it. Play a flying creature because it's fun and it can have some interesting implications to the world around you. If no one else in your universe is able to fly, then that one flying player has a huge advantage. But if you want to have a world where players can fly, flying probably isn't going to be that unique, or at least people are aware of it and prepared for it. And if your players do want to play a flying creature to cheese the game, I hope they like fighting griffins. That's not going to be fun. Keep your dice on the table, everybody. Thanks again for watching, and thanks again to all the Patreon members who help make this channel possible. It really wouldn't be possible without you guys. We're working on the coloring book. Did you know that? It's a secret. But you can check out some of the earlier pages in the Discord for all Patreon members as well as Discord members. Come check that out. Links down below. That's all I got. Have a wonderful day. Bye, everyone.